All right, Lakers, all odds provided by DraftKings are minus 195 against the T-Wolves. I think this is a very favorable Laker matchup. And I think it's pretty obvious. The Timberwolves, outside of Ant Edwards, he's going to have to score 40 in a couple of these games. Julius Randle has historically kind of the classic, plays hard, plays with energy, very successful in the regular season, but everybody in the postseason plays with energy, and he comes right back. The regression's clear. He's a B player who plays with A energy, and that is really valuable in the regular season. And then you get to the postseason, and everybody's got equal time off, and he's a B player, and doesn't create. Sometimes can get a little ball selfish. Gobert's not an offensive player. Mike Conley's a play initiator, but doesn't provide much offense. And the Lakers are the rare team. I mean, Boston may be the only team in the league that does this, that has three playmakers and three play initiators, and at any one time can have the three best offensive players playing well on the floor. I don't think it's a good matchup for Minnesota at all. This was the bad draw, in my opinion, for the T-Wolves. What do you think?
I totally agree. I think there's a basic talent argument you can make for LA, which is like, who's better, Ant or Luka? You're taking Luka. Who's better, LeBron or Julius Randle?
Yeah,
You're taking LeBron. Who's better, Austin Reeves or a Jaden McDaniels or a Rudy Gobert or a Dante DiVincenzo? You're taking Austin Reeves. So I think the Lakers' top three guys are just better, and I think that could be enough to make the case. Where I think it gets really interesting is the Timberwolves' greatest strength on defense is their combination of perimeter defenders and Rudy Gobert at the rim. And the Lakers can neutralize that. Unfortunately, as we saw in the Western Conference Finals last year, the best perimeter defender on Minnesota, Jaden McDaniels, can't guard Luka. He's too skinny. Luka can just throw him around like a rag doll. None of the perimeter defenders on Minnesota make Luka uncomfortable. And the Lakers, with their 5-out groups, with Dorian Finney-Smith instead of Jackson Hayes, they can space Rudy out to where he cannot protect the rim without conceding a wide open three. When Rudy's on the perimeter, he's still a good defender, but he's not the transcendently impactful defender he is when he can sit right underneath the basket. So I think they neutralize him there. On the other end of the floor, the Lakers have struggled against spread out shooting, like against Boston, and really smart teams with speed, like Golden State. Those are the teams that have really caused the Lakers issues post Luka trade. You know who the Lakers have not struggled with post Luka trade defensively? The teams that they can load up on. You can load up on the Timberwolves. They are not a good spot up team. They are a team that you can put two on the ball with Ant and not get burned with
that's
high
right.
level playmaking. It's just, I look at this as a series where just all of the strengths and weaknesses line up in a way to where I think the Lakers just have a big advantage. This was one of the few series that I picked in 5 games. I think the Lakers are going to beat them in 5.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Um, and the Lakers, I could be wrong on this. I think they play as good a defense as they need to. I think that when I watch them play, there are times I'm like, oh, this is one of those games they really care about. And then there are other times I'm like, they're just not talking. This is one of those. They either all went out and had a nice dinner last night and a bottle of vino. They're just not. That when I watch them, I think they're as good as they want to be defensively. I don't think they're great. But like Denver's got limitations. There's just things. I mean, Jokic, there's just limitations. I think the Lakers actually have some pretty good length and defensive personnel outside of Luka. I think they'll play good defense in the playoffs because they'll want to. They're a want team. When they want to, I think they're pretty capable.
Yeah, and when you're as good offensively as they've been with their best groups, and by the way, that group with Dorian Finney-Smith and Rui next to LeBron, Luka, and Austin has been torching everybody for a long time now. That unit can really score the ball. So they have some margin for error on that side of the floor. It really is about LeBron. LeBron, as like the orchestrator on the back line, he plays that Draymond Green-esque role, just telling everybody where to go, calling out the plays as they're starting to take shape. And then Jared Vanderbilt, Rui Hachimura, Dorian Finney-Smith. It's just a lot of 6'9" rangy athletes that can cover ground. I'm not going to lie, Colin, like the Lakers certainly have an uphill climb, and there are going to be multiple series where they'll be an underdog if they get to the third and fourth round, but this could not have broken better for them than it did. Now you only have to play one of Denver, OKC, and the Clippers. Those are 3 of the most dangerous teams in the West. They only have to play one of them. So I think it actually broke really nicely for them here. If they can take care of business against the Timberwolves and beat whoever comes out of that Warriors Rockets series, they're right there in the against OKC in the conference finals. I think they've got a really good chance.
it's funny when I look. So Denver takes on the Clippers, and the Clippers played very well down the stretch. And again, half the league's tanking, half are resting starters. I did think the winner over Golden State was impressive. I thought James Harden in overtime was great. I thought Kawhi being Kawhi. I mean, you never know when he's going to play, but when he does, he's got so many components that remind me of a little bit of a poor man Michael, Kobe, the hand size, this physical strength, despite not being a heavy player. He's a very unique player. I mean, 5 years ago, I thought he was a top 3 player in the league. I was like, he's a get a bucket, get a stop guy. And he, in the last couple of weeks, you're like, wow, he is back. And he's just a hard guy to get a read on him. That's why basically Pop just said, I'd rather not make the playoffs. I'm not going to deal with this. He's an enigma. They don't have, besides their starting center, Zubac, they don't have any size. I mean, their backup center's Ben Simmons. There's just nothing there. So Jokic is going to have just a monster series. And also, they're so bad when the Joker's not on the floor that he's going to play 40 minutes. Like, they just can't operate without him. This is weird. I thought Denver was going to be a dynasty. They're not. And I knew Malone would wear everybody out. He's not a Spoelstra, a Kerr. He's not the kind of part psychologist, part coach. He's a little bit of an old school, intense Barker. I want to play who I want to play. Battled with the GM. But I don't know if I buy the Clippers' late season run. I don't know if I do. And I get the world's best basketball player. I don't trust Harden in big playoff spots. I know I'm supposed to take the Clippers, but I just can't see Jokic getting run out of the NBA playoffs in one round.
So the point you're making about the regular season results down the stretch is a really important one. It's really the middle tier that is going as hard as they can in this phase, because
That's right.
The top tier teams are like, we're just trying to be healthy for our first round series. The bottom tier teams are, we just want Cooper Flag. The middle tier teams are all like, we do not want to be in the play-in. So we're going to go every single game. Like, all of these teams, basically from the Lakers all the way down through the Suns, have been playing must-win basketball every single night since the trade deadline has passed. That's what happens when you have the play-in tournament in the mix. And so I do think there's something to be said about some of the fake results you could see at this point. The only thing that makes it a little more complicated with the Clippers is the Kawhi Leonard part. You are taking a team that was already a rock-solid basketball culture, anchored by James Harden, a very great floor-raising perimeter player in the NBA. Zubac has become one of the top 6 or 7 centers in the NBA. You have the elite perimeter defense talent of Derek Jones Jr. and Chris Dunn. One of the craziest subplots of the year is them pivoting from Paul George, who averaged 23 points a game for them last year, and then being like, no, thank you, and taking 2 discounted perimeter athletes in Derek Jones and Chris Dunn and basically getting a better roster out of it, which is just a huge credit to that organization and them just prioritizing the right things and the culture they're trying to build there. But you're adding to that a player in Kawhi Leonard that legitimately at this point is an apex superstar in this league. When he actually has his legs underneath him the way he's had them late, the ability to get to his spots, the ability to get lift, he was going on Jimmy Butler and making it look easy, going against Draymond Green and making it look easy. He is at his peak as that type of get a stop, get a bucket type of guy right now. That is what changes the ceiling for me with this with the Clippers. I look at it pretty simply. They have 4 awesome offensive players. Zoo is like good for 20 points a game these days. Harden's good for 20 points a game. Powell's good for 20 points a game. And Kawhi Leonard on any given night can go toe-to-toe with the best superstars in the league. You surround that with a strong defensive foundation, elite perimeter defense for 48 minutes. Jamal Murray's going to have Derek Jones and Chris Dunn all over him that entire series. Zoo even is one of the rare guys who's big and strong enough to kind of hang with Jokic a little bit. Jokic tried to post up Zubac 6 times this season, went 1 for 6 from the field. Now, I think he'll do a little better. He's too good to not figure that out. But him posting up Zoo is not the same as him posting up these other skinny centers that he posts around the league. It's a little bit harder for him to win the ground battle there. Really, what caused me to pick the Clippers in this matchup was the defense for Denver, though.
Right.
The Denver's defense is so far gone, Colin. It's like so far gone. It's like off the reservation gone. Doesn't even slightly resemble the defense they won the championship with.
You know what,
And
Jason,
they're just not close.
Part of it, and I really believe defense is effort. Not to interrupt you.
Very
Offense is fun. Defense is not. You could tell Malone was in trouble to me when I watched their defense. I thought, okay, they're not playing hard for the coach. Like if a team's playing great defense and they're just limited offensively, some of that's just lack of talent. When a team, and Denver's not a great defensive team, Gordon's very long and athletic, but when they stopped playing defense this year, and I don't know what the analytics said, but when I watched them, I mean, teams scored easily. Remember the Lakers went down there and just got great looks for 2 hours. I'm like, okay, Malone's in big trouble. Because the great defensive teams, I mean, Boston, for as good as they are, can play defense. That means they're in tune with Missoula. Defense is coaching and effort. And so I think I think the problem for Denver and Memphis, by the way, is when you lose your coach, and now you've got kind of the substitute teacher who's not as good as the head coach. That's the difference. That's why I think Houston, they like their coach. They can hang with Golden State. They'll just give you an incredible effort every night. And I think Denver's biggest problem is they quit on their coach. And when you quit on your coach, you quit on defense because it's a lot of freaking work in this league to stop marginal players. Forget the stars.
No, absolutely. And it's all about like habits. And this is the thing. Denver is starting from a position of disadvantage on defense. Jokic is not a good defender. Jamal Murray is not a good defender. Michael Porter Jr. is not a good defender. So when they were at their best defensively, it was a combination, to your point, of strong game planning that fit their personnel and a commitment every day to be like, we're going to be so sharp in these habits that even though we have these weak points, we're going to find a way to get enough stops that our offense can carry us over the top. The problem this year is they've let go of those habits. And what gets scary is, Colin, like it's April 16th. There aren't too many examples in NBA history of a team who played bad defense all year who was like, all right, we got the coach we want now. Let's go figure this out. Like, I just have a hard time believing that they're just going to snap their fingers and look like the 2023 Nuggets. And again, they're capable. I've watched Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal and Jokic play much better defense than they've played this season. It's just hard to just start that engine from scratch. And so here's the thing. Maybe they figure it out, and I can't write them off. This was the hardest series for me to pick, Colin, by far. And right now on DraftKings, if I'm not mistaken, it's a pick 'em. It's minus 110 both ways. Yeah. So, like, it is as close as it can get, but the reason why I ended up taking the Clippers is I just think they're substantially better defensively and closer to Denver offensively than Denver is to them on the other end of the floor.
Well, and Ty Lue is probably worth a game in the series. Let's be honest. If you have a coaching advantage, it's a game in the series. You make an adjustment and the other coaching staff doesn't. I think football coaching is more valuable than basketball coaching. But I can go back to a couple of those. That Warrior series, when they beat the Celtics in the finals and they went back to Boston, boy, that was a lot of coaching. That was great coaching by Steve Kerr. So I think Ty Lue is one of the more understated. You know, he's not a guy that needs a lot of publicity. He was a grinder as a player. He's a grinder as a coach, but he'll be worth a game against the substitute teacher. He's going to be worth a game in the series. So I agree. I think the Clippers are going to win too. Sorry to interrupt this great video, but please remember to like and subscribe. Thank you. Now back to the video. It is hard because I said this the other day. I had actually somebody come up to me on the street, and he was a former Laker. It was Sasha. Okay. And I said the best center I've ever seen, complete player, is Kareem. And I grew up with him. He was a 14, 15-time all-defensive team, ran the floor when he was young, rebound, unstoppable offensive force, cerebral, prickly, but could throw an elbow. Ask Kent Benson, I think the player he went after. He could give you everything. He was wiry, but he could be physical. I think because of that defensive prowess, he is better than Jokic. I think Jokic is the second most gifted center of all time. Now, people would say Wilt, but Wilt was flaky. You didn't know what the effort you got. He wasn't easy to play with. You got different variations of Wilt depending on the night before. And Wilt was kind of into Wilt, where I think Jokic is actually a really good team player. I just think he's not engaged defensively all the time. But outside of Kareem, I mean, generally with a center, I can say Shaq power, Russell defense, Akeem footwork. I can say something. I look at Jokic and I'm like
All
if
the above.
Kareem, I mean, if Kareem, Arvydas Sabonis, Bill Walton had a baby, it's like, I think Bill Walton is the one player, very briefly, not the old Walton with the Celtics, who was great, but he wasn't as good as the UCLA or the Portland Walton. There was a time when Bill Walton was like the best passing big ever, the best mid-range jumper, ran the floor, could be super physical, kind of weird. But I think Jokic I just don't think I've ever quite seen anything like him. That's my thing. I don't know if I've ever seen anything like him.
He's the best offensive player I've ever seen, Colin.
Wow.
And I have watched and rooted for two of the greats that have ever done that, or rooted for or against, I should say. I think LeBron is on the short list of guys who are in that conversation. I think Steph is on the short list of guys who are in that conversation. Having rooted for LeBron and then being terrified of Steph and rooting against him over the years, I know what it's like to be on the other end of a player who like legitimately creates a great shot almost every time down the floor. Jokic makes it look even easier than those guys do. It's the top tier playmaking piece that you get from LeBron, the inverted spacing that you get from Steph that creates all the dunks and layups right underneath the basket, but mixed in with the lack of variance. Because Steph will have games where he just can't make a shot,
Right.
you know? But that doesn't happen with Jokic. Like if he gets into the 5 to 10 foot range, it's going in 2 out of 3 times, like clockwork. He's going to make it. And so there's a lack of variance. There's a power element to it. He can kind of audible into different players. Like it's like, okay, I'm playing the Spurs. I'm just going to post up every single time down the floor. Watching this Clippers series, we won't see as much Jokic post ups. It's not his advantage. But guess what? He can run inverted ball screens and like literally play pick and roll as the handler out on the perimeter. He can run 2-man game with Jamal Murray. His versatility and dependability night to night mixed with all the inverted stuff he does with the spacing. I have never seen a player make it look easier on offense than Nikola Jokic did. It's rooting against him is absolute hell, having had to do that over the last couple of years. He deserves a good amount of criticism for what happened to their defense this year, especially in the second half of the year. I thought he just straight up mailed it in. And like you made some good points about how that might have had something to do with Mike Malone. I agree with you, but even if you just take that and set it aside, he still had one of the greatest seasons in the history of the league because he's the greatest offensive player to ever touch the floor.
Yeah, it is. It's funny because Luka and him have kind of similar body types where they're in great shape, probably, relative to
Yeah.
for the type. But Luka's got a lot of herk and jerk and start and stop to his game that gets open. He's very good at just keeps you constantly on his hip and off balance. You're never quite sure. He's not fast, but he is kind of quick for his size, and he's always bouncing off you. Never loses kind of composure or the ball while there's contact. But it's a start-stop game that's hard to defend. Jokic just sort of rolls into you. And I think a lot of players, they're like Draymond has said this, there's no real book on him because it's in the NFL, there's always they always talk about that bad body offensive lineman. Donald Penn was known as this for the Raiders. Bad body, so effective. Like there was no weak spot. He was weirdly long and he had a weird ass and his shoulders were huge. And it was like a bad body offensive lineman where it's like, yeah, it's just defensive players couldn't quite figure out a weak spot. I think there's nobody else kind of quite built like him that plays like him. So, there are certain guys in this league. I mean, just think about it. If you did a silhouette, nobody else had the sky hook. Nobody quite moves cardio-wise like Steph. I think part of what he does is no other big, when you play him, it's just, okay, there's no warm-up. This is the only guy that plays like this. And I'm not saying the league is similar, but there are a lot of twitchy, long, athletic guys who have similar moves that they've learned from camps and coaches, right? And certain step moves. I think Jokic is a disaster to defend. The body, I mean, a lot of times he just leans in and you get trapped under him around the back. You ever see this when these big guys get trapped and he gets like 3 looks and you can't get your hips aligned to box him out.
You can't jump when you're connected with him. That's the thing. This is why boxing out is so important. When you box a player out, it keeps him ground bound so that you can come in from behind to get the rebound elsewhere on the floor. Similarly, Jokic does the same thing to defensive players. He's constantly dislodging you and putting you in these situations where you are not athletic because he's disrupted your base so you can't jump. And then that way he just finds these little angles for these little release points. I love the point you made about how the league has changed because I found this to be really fascinating. So part of Michael Jordan's dominance was that the league was so big and slow. And so he was this lightning quick guard that could just cut through everyone like butter. Similarly with Jokic, the league is so thin and fast that he's just a bowling ball that's just knocking everybody over on his way to the rim. In a weird way, like part of it is just the timing of the era. But to his credit, because this is the thing, there are a lot of big centers that can't play in the NBA today because they can't do this or they can't do that. They struggle with this. They struggle with that. Jokic, because he's good enough in all of these other areas to be a useful NBA player, can weaponize his size. And all of a sudden it's like, oh man, there's 450 players in this league and Joel Embiid might be the only guy big enough to actually deal with him. And he's not even healthy all the time. So he just has a mismatch every single night because of the era that he plays in.
Well, it's like Derrick Henry, the running back for the Ravens. As linebackers and safeties have gotten smaller because the game is faster, linebackers are 225, Derrick Henry's 250. So, 20 years ago, linebackers were as big as Derrick Henry. And now guys can't, Derrick is a physical mismatch and he gets a running start. And I do think that, I've said it, the league over the last 12 years has become kind of the skinny jeans Euro league. Like it's a lot of centers that weigh 243 and he's just a load physically.